glad you said something.
You see up here on the upper left-hand corner where it says foot stop?
Yes.
Okay, you can see if you look underneath that all of a sudden there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of frequencies show up.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Okay? So what we're looking at here is I found a loose board in the Grand Gallery, and when I stepped on it, it reverberated all the way through the pyramid like, oh, holy shit. And so I asked everybody to be quiet, and I stopped on it a bunch of times and recorded it. So what you're looking at here is one of the footstops, and then on the other side, you see those little sweeps? I don't know if you can see my
I can see it, yes.
or not.
Yes.
Okay, so you see these sweeps over here?
Yes.
That's my wife going, wow.
Whoa.
Okay?
Right.
So now over here, you can see the frequency.
Yes.
And you can see that this bottom frequency down here is 5 hertz.
Right.
Okay? So this is the main frequency of the stop is this big yellow, yellow and red. This big yellow is the highest intensity. But you can see that something is fighting with that frequency as we move through time, and then it starts to stabilize over here in these other bands on the other end. You see that?
I see that.
You see how something's fighting with that resonant frequency? That swirling?
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't really sit there and resonate at that frequency very long. It starts to break up, and this other frequency starts to get stronger.
I see it. Okay.
Right, and so what we're looking at here at about 2.8 seconds. Okay?
Okay.
This frequency right here is that 65 and a half. In other words, by the time we get about 2.8 seconds into it, we're starting to see what was originally around 88 is mutating into the fundamental resonant frequency that the parts of the pyramid are resonating at, and it's starting to take over.
That's amazing.
Okay? Now, if we go over here, you see where it says corbels?
Yes.
On the left.
Yes.
Okay? That's the resonant frequency range that I've calculated of what should be the corbels in the Grand Gallery. And you can see, I actually measured a couple of them. You can see them resonating.
Yes.
You see the hot spots?
Yes.
You can see those corbels resonating.
And that's,
so I know those calculations are right.
Okay, the 164 and 328. Well, you're
right.
Okay.
Okay? It's that octave. And I know those calculations are pretty close to right because I measured, depending on which stop, I actually measured 4 of the 7 corbels resonating. Here you can see 3 of them. But on a couple of other stops, I got different ones to resonate. So I know I'm right about that. Okay?
Okay.
So my suspicion is that since that's a horizontal resonance in the room, because that's the only parallel walls is in the corbels, right?
Right.
I suspect that those are the frequencies that Chris's resonators would have been tuned to.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's impressive.
Okay? So there's that. Now here's one more thing that is the most puzzling piece of the whole thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the foot stop. Okay? And you see that where it says corbels, you see there's nothing happening in those higher frequencies until I stop on that board, and then everything happens. Okay?
Right.
Right?
Right.
What's this in the lower left-hand corner? Something is pulsing down there before I stopped on the board.
Oh. It sure is.
And if you look at that, when I stopped on the board, it landed on one of those pulses, and I get that big red and a little touch of yellow as those two signals added up.
Right.
then it goes back to the pulsing. You see that pulsing?
Oh yeah.
You can see my cursor. You see
I can see it. Right. Right.
Okay? Right. Now look at the frequencies. That goes from about 26 hertz down to 5.
Right. Okay.
And if we look at these lines over here, it's actually closer to about 20, 21 hertz down to 5.
Okay.
Now that's a problem. There's something that's infrasonic that is pulsing over a wide bandwidth in the pyramid in and of itself, because it was pulsing before I stepped on the board.
Whoa. That's fascinating. Wow.
You see? Now, these resonant frequencies here, if we go up to the corbels again,
Right.
you can see how there's the initial stop, and then it kind of it sits in, but we get these horizontal sweeps at that frequency. You see those horizontal sweeps?
Yes.
And here's a horizontal sweep.
Yes.
Okay, those horizontal sweeps in a narrow frequency band, that's what a resonant frequency looks like.
Okay.
Because it's time across the bottom and it's frequency this way.
Yes.
So in other words, that frequency stays hotter than anything else for an extended amount of time.
Right.
Even when my wife said, wow, it picked up one of those resonant frequencies in the corbels.
Right.
And there it is again over here.
Wow.
Here's the frequency of her voice, but by sympathetic resonance, an octave lower picked up. Here's her voice.
Yes.
Overtones of her voice, but this is probably, if this frequency is way below her voice, this is something that the room was amplifying, that was picking up. It's basically an octave. If you look at it, it's an octave.
Right.
Right. So it's an octave overtone down that's being emphasized by the room, and it puts it in those corbels. It's in the corbel range.
Wow.
So that makes sense too.
That's
But this piece over here, where it's pulsing over a wide bandwidth, okay? You see these pulses,
Uh-huh.
okay?
I see them.
It's pulsing, but it's a wide bandwidth. Everything from 5 up to around 20 hertz. Okay, maybe a little over 20 hertz.
Right.
Like right here would be about 25, 26 hertz. Okay? That's a problem. I do not know what to do with that. I've shown that to quite a few people, a couple of architects in buildings. I've shown it to some professional sound buddies of mine, and I've shown it to a half a dozen NASA scientists. And everybody is just going, I don't know. I do not know what to do with that. I recorded it, I measured it, there's the FFT scan, it's there. But I don't know what's causing it. The pyramid itself is pulsing at infrasonic frequencies. I'm still working on that one.
Huh.
But there it is, you can see it.
Great observation.
So that's an example. That's an example of the kind of stuff. And you know, if we go in here, let me see if I can pull in some. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Here's a lower resolution scan. You can see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You can see, I drew the yellow line, but you can see there's a resonant frequency right there.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. There were other ones, and you can see that my estimate of the 164 to 328, that the ones that we were able to measure are right in there. Okay. This is a really cheap program. It's not the really good one that I'm using now. Okay.
Right.
Here's another look at it. Here's another look at it where you can see that pulsing going on before the foot stomp, right?
Right.
But the foot stomp landed on the beat of that pulse. Because
Right.
look at the second one.
Right.
Bam!
That's
Look how hot that second one is. It landed on the beat.
wow.
And so it's additive.
Right. Makes sense.
Now, if we zoom in, right, if we move into some of these others, okay, you can really zoom in, and we're in a deep zoom mode in that program now, okay?
Okay.
And we're honing in on the yellow is like, here's a resonant frequency right here, okay?
Okay.
And then you can see it's strong here, and then it starts to fight. There's that swimming thing. You see how this other frequency starts to show up?
Yeah.
And then this starts to destabilize, and then this other frequency starts to take over. Okay?
Right.
Here is our 65 hertz.
And that's the one that's taking over.
That's the one that's taking over.
Right.
It's breaking this other one up from the foot, the main sound of the foot stomp,
Right.
and starting to assert itself. Because you can see it starting, as we go through time, it gets stronger. By the time we get out here, this was about 5 seconds.
Okay.
About 5 seconds, we can start to see it's asserting itself, and this one's getting weaker.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay? So, and you can see we've got multiple yellows that are showing up here, and that are very nice. And there's your corbels. You can see them. You see those horizontal striations?
Yes.
There's your corbels. There's your corbels.
Okay.
Just-
Yeah. Right. Right.
Okay?
I see it.
And this one has a particularly nice one on the third corbel, which is where that slot is. Okay? This box right here,
Yes.
see this little white box?
Yes.
That's the way the program works is you can go in and you can click on these different places on the scan, and this little white box will appear. And if you look up in the other corner, it tells you the time, it tells you the peak frequency inside that box, it tells you the bin frequencies, it tells you the pitch in modern music. So like that's a G3 plus 3 cents.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Right.
The frequency itself is running from 48.01 to 48.103. And so that's in modern G-sharp 3 plus 3 cents. One of the things that drives me nuts about people that I would try to talk to about the pyramid music, the frequencies, is they keep trying to put it in modern music.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've seen.
It's not modern music.
Right.
It's microtonal at best. Right? It's microtonal. You can't say that. You know what a cent is
No, I don't. No.
in music?
No.
If I take 2 notes on a keyboard, right?
Right.
Like a C, a B to a C, for example. Okay?
Okay.
And I take the difference between those 2 notes and break it into 100 slices.
Okay.
Just like taking a dollar bill and turning it into pennies.
Right.
That's a cent.
Okay.
So it's a G3 plus just a little bit more, 3 more cents.
Okay.
It's just a hair sharp.
Okay.
Anything less than 5 cents, unless you've got perfect pitch, you're probably not going to hear. But it is measurable.
Okay.
And so this program will allow you to really zoom in, pick a certain piece of it, and get that data off of it.
That's
Very handy.
That's very handy. Wow.
Okay? So you'll learn how to use that program. So you can get in and see things, down to that kind of resolution. See, here's the second hit. Once again, you can see the infrasonics going. The infrasonics are going before the hit.
Okay,
There's
yes.
a nice corbel ring right there.
Yeah.
Got 2 good corbel rings on this one, right?
Right.
But once again, you can see how that 80 some hertz that was is the main frequency of the board that I've stopped on starts to break up, right?
Right.
And these other frequencies start to assert themselves. You see how all of a sudden it's a horizontal band?
Yes.
That's a resonant frequency in the room that's taking over and gaining steam as we go through it. This is another about 2.8 seconds. We'll look at it. So about 2.8 seconds later, by 5 seconds, it's almost all at 65.5 hertz. 64.5 to 65.5 hertz is what I'm measuring.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
there's
since
some nice overtones.
that's from the real building, then those are accurate, as opposed to scaled models.
That's what's in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Like here we can start to see some of the overtones